Alright friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kristen and this is Growing Zone 9B. So I just got a delivery today. I've been out in the yard gardening. I'm sweaty and hot and it's crazy. The pollen's out, so my eyes are itching. But that's alright. We are still out here growing and cleaning up and doing what we need to do. Got wasps flying around. There's a bumblebee. Let's see if I can get you guys in view of this. Alright, so you guys saw that bumblebee, and that's what we want to see in nature. We want to see the bees around, we want to see happy butterflies, we want to see it all going on in our garden. So on Etsy, I ordered 3 Chickasaw Plum starts. I did not know that they were bare root, so this is how they came. Can you guys even see that? These are 3. They look like freaking twigs. This is not really what I had in mind when I placed an order. I feel like from Etsy, that's kind of to be expected. The end of the roots are completely dry because they were not wrapped up very well or in moisture. This plant should have arrived almost a week ago, and it got literally shipped from Tennessee to Kentucky. From Kentucky, I think it went to Ohio. It was like a really weird route. Then from Ohio, it went back to Kentucky and then started shipping down my way. So here to Florida. This is what we have. Nonetheless, these are very, very, very sad looking to me. Very sad. These trees, if you order them from a direct nursery, can end up costing you about $100. I've seen them as low as maybe 35, but I've seen them as high as 100. So the thing that I liked about it was that these will do fairly well in our zone, and so I was like, I'd love to have some plums. I did have a plum. I had 2, but one of them died, and so I was like, well, let's just do an Etsy order, of course, because you can always find things cheaper on Etsy. But then again, you may end up getting what you paid for. So while this is cheaper, I'm not sure that this was the best route for me to go. But sometimes I feel like overpaying just because it is a nursery isn't the best choice either. So what I did is I have some potting mix, and I'm actually just going to place these gently in some potting mix. Now they do in a regular growing situation, once they are established, they do prefer to have kind of acidic soil. So I'm thinking more or less like what you would plant like a blueberry in is probably going to be the best for these little babies. But I had gotten 1 for myself, or 2, and then I planned on breaking some off for my parents, and then once they get established. And then I definitely have 1 for my brother, because I usually give my brother something that he can also grow or hang on to. Now the downside to having these plants is, yes, they grow well here. They'll produce a reddish slash orangish fruit. Now it's going to be a little bit smaller. There's love bugs flying everywhere, like baby love bugs. Love bugs are disgusting. And so long story short, I just wanted a nice fruit that we would be able to have. Remember, my goal is to basically get off of the grocery store as much as possible, to be growing our own food and to know where our food comes from, and the nutrients that's in my food, because we know in big ag, you're not necessarily getting what you think you're getting per se. Potentially you could be getting stuff that's been sprayed, even though it says organic. You could be getting all kinds of stuff. We all know that, otherwise you wouldn't be watching me to try to learn great things that you can be growing in your garden. So I'm hoping that these little shoots are gonna take off. I'm gonna actually keep them under the porch for a little bit, under our carport, and I'm gonna try to baby these until they get really established. The downside to this plant is that it has, it's like a bamboo. It does have the potential of doing runners and shooting off and creating a nuisance. So it does need to be under control, but if you're gonna have a plant that goes wild and crazy, it might as well be a plant that fruits and brings you something delicious. So I will be keeping this from here forward in a pot. I do not necessarily plan on putting this in the ground. Now, if I start breaking it off and take one over to my parents, will I probably put it in the ground? Yes, my parents have a lot of acreage that they can grow on, and so I know the deers will get into this at their property, and so that's always stuff to think about. I also have, my brother got me this for my birthday, and I've still yet to plant it, is this cotton candy mango. So this is another plant that I've kind of had under the carport, just trying to baby it until it gets really established. I can see some right here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got some little flowers trying to come out on it. I'm gonna pinch those off because I don't want this plant going to flower just yet. But I am excited about it, and I am gonna get it planted in this bucket over here. I'm gonna try to leave the tag on it. I've got a bucket established back here, and I'm gonna go ahead and get it started today because it has been under our porch. The cool weather is done, and so we need to go ahead and get this in the ground and get it going, because we want fruit as soon as possible. That is the goal. The time to plant a fruit tree was probably, you know, about 10 years ago in my opinion. So that's one of the things that I wish my younger self would have known, was to get a lot of fruit trees established, or trees that are going to benefit you, not necessarily these trees like pine trees and oak trees and stuff like that, or this you know, like maple-ish type tree that we have in the back. That's definitely not what we want to see in the ground, because it's not really benefiting us. Now, the maple tree that we have, the leaves are great because we can use those leaves for composting, but outside of that, it's not really giving purpose in my opinion, and I need a tree that gives purpose. It does give some shade, and so that is a benefit, but you know, you gotta, it came with the property at this point, so it's, you know, it is what it is, and if we have to take it out at some point, we'll take it out. But so I'm gonna get this cotton candy mango planted. Now, this is not a cold hardy plant, and so unfortunately it will remain in this bucket, because if the frost hits, not only do I want to keep frost cloth around it, which I did buy this year from Grower Solution, but I also want to, if need be able to move it, because in a hurricane or something like that, I will shove a lot of these plants underneath our carport and pray that we don't get a bad storm that will come through and just completely destroy some of these plants that I have invested in. My star fruits are up here in the front too. I do kind of baby them a little bit because I don't want them getting just this blasting hot heat. I've noticed lately that when I've come out to the garden, in these front areas, it has just been so hot. It actually feels like a microwave is just penetrating your skin. You can just literally feel it just burning you. So I have been attempting to try to wear like UV protective clothing, which, you know, I don't know how great that is for my skin, but overall having something kind of cover me does make me personally feel better. It's probably best to wear something that's like linen, and I need to invest more into some linen. I did see on Old Navy that they had a bunch of linen. They always send me, like, you know, emails and stuff, but that linen is actually a mixed blend, so I'm not really getting straight true linen, and that's really what I'm looking for. And I know Quince has linen products, and so that's always important, to be making sure that we have the highest of vibes and energy, and linen is going to bring that to you. All right, so I have planted these little plants. All right, so I've planted these plants right here. You can see I've just kind of put one laying this way, one going that direction, one going this direction. I've put them in some potting soil. Well, I do know they like a little bit of sand. I really just kind of want to get these established because they're so tiny. I just don't know if they're going to make it, and I'm going to end up buying something from a real nursery instead of Etsy. But at the end of the day, I figured I would start with this, and then we'll take it from there and see how it goes. I did not put this in organic mix. I did just put it in regular Miracle-Gro. As you can see right here, this is the Miracle-Gro. Here's Luna hanging out with us. And so, you know, it is what it is. You know, you buy what you can afford and what you feel like you want to invest in. And this is what my fiance had picked up. And so we're going to use it. We're, you know, if it's not organic, it's okay. You know, we do the best we can with what we have. You guys can see that we also have some little tomatoes starting to come in. But you can also see at the same time that this plant is already getting just blistered and diseased, and that is not a hard thing to do here in Florida, especially with our tomatoes. This is just a tomato that went rogue. It came up on this plant, so we'll take whatever it brings to us, but right now it's not looking very happy. Check that out. Goodness gracious, there are nothing but blooms all over this plant. This is my pomegranate. Now this will be the first year that I have ever had so many blooms on it. So I'm really hoping to get some pomegranates. I have been giving this a little bit of fertilizer to kind of give this the energy that it needs to just take off. But at first we only had about 15 flowers and I thought, man, that's great. But as we are continuing to watch this plant, it is just absolutely taking off and doing amazing. And of course, as you guys know, our bananas up here in the front did come back as well. So I'm hoping this is going to be a nice little grow area for us. I'm going to finish getting all of my mix in here and we're going to get this mango planted. And that's what I'm saying, friends. You know, it's always something going on here. We never really stop, even though I'm not continuing to like record. We are always cleaning up, changing, getting stuff planted, and doing what we need to do to be able to try to get off of the growing system. Now you guys know that I have bought a garden tower, and so we are still working at getting that established. And I'm trying to get my seeds to start so I can transfer them into that. Now that garden tower is not an end-all be-all, and neither is growing in the ground. I think it's going to be a combination of both, is that we need some stuff in ground and we need some stuff that's going to be, you know, in the house that we can maintain. Obviously there's still going to be things that I need to get, like flour and meat and eggs, because I cannot have chickens here. And so that is a downside to growing in basically a suburban, urban type area here. There are just restrictions to where we grow, but that doesn't mean that I'm fully restricted. And this is why we can put stuff in pots and we can grow. And if you're in an apartment, keep that in mind as well, that you can get one of these grow towers and try it out if that's something that you're interested in. I know people will say do a grow tower because overall it's less money, or no, just plant and ground because it's less money. There is no less money when it comes to growing your own food, in my opinion. You are still going to be putting out, whether that's more into your pots, because you've got to, that soil and compost is always draining out. You have to revitalize your beds. There's always something you got to remulch. There's stuff that you will always have to do. Your plants will die. You will need to buy more plants. But growing inside is, you can't grow things like carrots. I cannot put a banana tree in that. I can't grow a lot of root vegetables like the daikon radishes and stuff that I also enjoy eating. A majority of my food is like salads and greens, and I love my fruits because I have a sweet tooth. So making smoothies is really important to me, and a big thing that I need is bananas. And so I am definitely doing a high yield banana plant throughout the entire yard. I'm putting as many banana plants in as possible. We are a wet subtropical area, and so if it gets wet, then that's okay. And mostly this front area is just for beauty anyway, so if I get something out of it, like my fruiting plants, it's gonna be great. And if I get these star fruit to start taking off too, that's an additional fruit that we can add to our diet. Just make sure that you are actually peeling off the edges. When I start getting some star fruit in, I will walk you guys through that process, because you want to peel it off, because if you don't, it can have it can cause like kidney stones, and we don't want to, you know, counteract the benefits of growing our own food. We don't want to end up in the hospital because we've got kidney stones from fruit that we're consuming. So, all right, friends, I love talking about the garden. I could ramble on forever, but the new addition to our garden is going to be the Chickasaw Plum, and I am hoping that this plant takes off. I will obviously keep you guys informed and on this journey with us. And, you know, it's just one more thing that we can add to the garden, and it kind of will withstand this cooler weather that we may get, and hopefully not die. And I will share this obviously with my friends, family, and that's the important part, is keeping them healthy and well as myself. All right, friends, until next time, love one another, be kind, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video.